You're listening to KEPW LP 97.3 FM, serving Eugene and Springfield. Also live streaming at www.kepw.org. Welcome to the Age of Vision radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark, where we constantly remind you that love is greater than fear and happiness is resistance. Good evening. This is Lonnie Clark, your host of the Age of Vision radio show. It's Thursday night, and this is the night we read Helen Caldicott's book. We're about halfway through. It's called The New Nuclear Danger, George W. Bush's Military-Industrial Complex. This book was written in 2002. We're about halfway through. Before I get to our reading, though, tonight, I want to encourage our listeners to participate with KEPW. This is our monthly membership drive. As you know, and I've told you several times, our station's only 3 years old. That we're entering into our third year. We got our license in 2016. Eugene Piecework applied for one of 16 FM radio stations given out in the United States, and yippee, we won. So we got one, but that means that we have to pay for it. And Eugene Pieceworks decided not to make it a for-profit enterprise. They decided to keep the radio station a community-focused, community-sponsored radio station, which means we rely on our listeners to send us a little bit of money every month. Some people can send us a lot of money. We're looking for underwriting from businesses, local and international. We will play a 30-second clip on our radio show 80 times a month for a minimal underwriting clip where you basically tell our listeners that you support community public radio. This is one station. In fact, I've been listening to community radio all of my adult life. Frankly, this is the most unique radio station I've ever heard, and the most unique set of people I've been involved with. The mission of KEPW is to serve the underserved. And frankly, that is exactly what it's doing. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the lineup because if you look at our lineup, if you go to kepw.org and you click on the button that says Our Schedule, there's a drop-down menu that says Our Schedule, and it'll show you our programming schedule. In Eugene, Oregon, from 6 to 7 a.m. every morning, we have El Show de Nelson y El Morillo. It's news in Spanish with a puppet. Spanish radio right here in Eugene, Oregon from 6 to 7 in the morning. Then we have the Brad Show from 7 to 8, Democracy Now! From 8 to 9. And then that plays all the way through, Monday through Friday. And on the weekends, we have Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday and Sunday at 6 to 7:30, completely open. So we do need producers for those shows. This is how new we are. We have open spots for radio shows, folks. So anybody within our area, and frankly, you can be outside of our area, as you see. We have Democracy Now! We have the Brad Show. This radio station has the Nuclear Hot Seat, and my radio show, The Age of Vision. And the Nuclear Hot Seat is produced out of Los Angeles. So we do need shows. We need underwriting. We need volunteers. This is our membership drive month where we're looking for money specifically. We're just going to tell you straight up. We need your money, your $5 a month. You can call our radio station or you can go online at www.kepw.org. And click on sustaining membership. Let me double check to see if they've got, this is how new we are. I'm not even sure we still have a sustaining membership button yet. We do have a donate button. So I guess I should know that, but whatever. I'm not going to beat myself up. I can do what you guys are going to do. KEPW.org. And I'm just going to log on and look at this drop down menus because they've been talking about being able to do this. Yes, you hit support on the far right-hand corner. It says support. Supporting KEPW. It tells you what we do, gives you our mission statement, one-time donation, sustaining membership, rewards for giving levels, volunteer staff meetings. So you can go onto our website and hit the sustaining membership. And that actually makes a huge difference so that we know what the budget is. $5 a month is perfect. $10 a month is perfect. $100 a month is awesome. You know what I mean? We love that. So we definitely need some funds because what we really want to do is build up. We are literally a grassroots radio station and building from the ground up. It is quite an amazing station and group of people. The philosophy at the board meetings, at the membership meetings, it's really to build things on consensus. So in our groups, we actually talk about things and we talk about the differences. One person wants this, one person wants another, and we talk it through and we come to consensus in almost every case. So it's a very unusual, it's not like most other public radio stations. It's kind of an experimental process here because we are giving voice literally to the underserved. At KEPW, the schedule actually has a program that gives voice to the houseless. The houseless called survival. What's it called? I'm going to find it on the schedule because it is a great show. We have Water is Life. Jana Thrift produces that, and it is called. I'm going to look on the schedule. Because I know we're still doing it. It's called Food Sleuth. We have Food Sleuth. They talk to you about food. Real Herbalism Radio. Economic Update. Sacred World with me and Music with Matura. Free Thought Radio. This Way Out. There's a show called Mama's Just Saying with Alana. And that's a hilarious. It's actually a very sweet show. Point of Inquiry. The Spanglish Show, which is a show that is there's the show I'm looking for. The Spanglish Show is a new show that we're doing, and it's youth sponsored. It's students who speak English and Spanish, and they're going to come in and do a show that's Spanglish, essentially. A lot of English and a lot of Spanish, because a lot of Spanish-speaking kids, they grow up in households where their parents sort of speak English and Spanish to them, and they don't speak fluent Spanish, they speak fluent English. So it's a really interesting, it's brand new. It's been on the air for 2 weeks now. So I just encourage people to come to our schedule. This is what I was thinking about. Legalized Survival. And that is the show that gives voice to the houseless, to the homeless people. And it talks about their experiences of living on the streets and what that means. And one of the things that happens is because they are marginalized in our communities, we don't talk to them. Those of us that have homes and families, and we just don't talk to homeless people. We don't understand what their lives are like and the things that they go through. The horrendous harassment they get just for living and breathing, for wanting to sleep in the streets. They get harassed because they don't have a place to live. And so this is a locally produced show. Jana Thrift produces it. Totally awesome. She also produces Water is Life. So there are some really awesome shows. I love this show too. We have the Conscious Hip Hop Show with JSMD. And we also have DJ Anonymous, who tells us he's not going to admit who he is if we ever meet him. So I don't know. I want people to understand that the radio station of KEPW is so different than any other local nonprofit radio station I've ever heard of, because this is the only station I've ever heard of who doesn't want to be like all the other radio stations. Everybody else, there's a format. In the nonprofit world, everybody wants to follow the format because that's how you get the money and that's how you get the big bucks. You got to do this and you have to do that, and you have to, like when you do your membership drive month. I don't have to ask. You guys know. You listen to nonprofit radio shows. What happens during membership drive month? Their shows they cut off. They're like, okay, you better call in or we're not going to play music or we're not going to talk about this information. That is not what happens at KEPW. Although right now I've been monopolizing the conversation with KEPW now for going on 10 minutes? That's because honestly, I want people to become enthusiastic and share our radio station with your friends here in Eugene and Springfield. We're the middle of the dial. It's very odd that you find a nonprofit radio station in the middle of the dial. Most of them are to the far left, which was intentional. But as you can see, I mean, even metaphorically, we're in the middle. The far left is now in the middle. We're sort of the mainstream. And that's because, you know why? The mainstream is becoming the oppressed, the underserved. We are the underserved, folks. So I went last night to watch Chris Hedges when he was in town. He was at the United Methodist Church, and I actually recorded him on my cell phone, and I kind of practiced playing. I was going to play the recording. I couldn't get it to upload, and I'll spare you the bad volume and the bad sound. Like, the sound's good on my cell phone, but transferring it to my computer didn't work, which disappointed me severely, but that's the way it is. But some of the points that Chris Hedges brought home was so real. Basically, he said, we're living in an openly fascist state. We have a Democratic Party that it was what the Republicans used to look like. And now the Republican Party, as we see in the Kavanaugh hearing, is just openly fascist. They're like, seriously, they don't care about the rule of law. They do whatever they want. They demonize anyone they want. Brett Kavanaugh should not be appointed to the Supreme Court if we had a valuable Supreme Court, which if you put him on there, you're going to devalue it. You're putting a drunk and a rapist on there, because that's my assessment of the man. He acted guilty. He didn't want a thorough investigation. So anybody who doesn't want a thorough investigation into something, you know they're guilty. But the bottom line is, it's up to us. We are the revolution. That's why I'm on KEPW. That's why I do the Age of Fission radio show. That's why I'm reading you a 16-year-old book, The New Nuclear Danger, because nuclear is the new N-word. We are in dire straits. The planet is dying. As Dr. Helen Caldicott says, the patient is in the emergency room and is on critical life support. The patient is dying. And it is up to us to get motivated and get out. Now, my niece and I were talking about this because self-love recovery is an action that is revolutionary, that is actually being part of the revolution, because we have so many broken people in our society, intentionally broken people, not just medically from the nuclear and chemical contamination, but emotionally. They have destroyed our families. They ignored the child abuse that many of us suffered. We grew up with really damaged self-esteem. So self-esteem recovery is actually revolutionary. It is part of the resistance. And I'm all about that. And you can't quantify and qualify who's being an activist and who's not. Just because some person's not out in the street or going to vote doesn't mean that they're not engaged in some way in stopping our oppressors. And as Chris Hedges said last night, we don't fight fascism because we think we're going to win. We fight fascism because they're fascists. They are serious murderers. And if we don't stand up to them, it's going to get serious. Now, we may not win, but we have a duty and obligation to our children, to ourselves, to our future, to our present. Because democracy's hanging by a thread. So I encourage everyone listening to this tonight to look in your heart and figure out how you can get actively involved. And one of the ways you can easily do that is encourage the work of this radio station. We need your help. We cannot make it without you. We desperately need your help. We need your $5, your $10 a month. We need sustaining memberships so that people will know that they can count on KEPW staying on the air. And we want to stay on the air, and we are getting better every year. We're 3 years old, and the programming is better. We've got the groove on. Things are flowing. You know what I mean? But we need, we're competing. Most other radio stations have big multi-million-dollar budgets. Ours is puny. Literally puny. But we want to grow and we want to keep sustaining ourselves. So your $10 a month matters to us. Your $5 a month really matters. $25 a month really matters. And if you sign up for a $25 a month payment plan or a $50 a month contribution where you're going to give us $50 or $100, and then you discover you just can't do that, please don't just cut us off. Cut it back to $5 a month. Cut it back to something. Continue to give. Don't forget about us, because we will not forget about you. We will continue to give to you whether you join us or not. But we want to make you part of our KEPW family. Now tonight at 6 p.m., and it's already 6:28 p.m., every first Thursday of the month, KEPW has a volunteers potluck that everybody can come and join us. So we want you to come and join us. But more than that, there's big news. We've got our membership drive event this coming Saturday or Sunday at Tsunami Books here in town in Eugene, Oregon. And the membership drive is kind of a big event. It's been done for 3 years, and David Barsamian, who is a well-known podcaster, runs his own show. He has, in fact, his show airs on our schedule, and let me find it. Let me see, what time does it show? And it is called Alternative Radio with David Barsamian, and he is on every night from 6 to 6:30 every Tuesday. And he is going to be live here in Eugene giving a talk at 6 p.m. Now let me tell you about the lineup of our big fundraiser, because it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have light refreshments. It's going to be at Tsunami Books. It's not going to be an all-day event. It's from 4 to 8, 4 p.m. The doors officially open. We get the sound together. Then we have an introduction by Andrew Rosenthal, who is one of our DJs, and Jana Thrift. She's going to do some performance poetry because she likes spoken word. And then we are going to have 2 quick video clips. They're each about 10 minutes long. One with Noam Chomsky called Trump is a Distraction. And then another clip called Just Say No to the Space Force. And that event, the Just Say No to Space Force, is part of an international Keep Space for Peace Week from October 6th to October 13th. Put on by the Global Network Against Weapons and Nuclear Power in Space. And we will be giving out some posters and some handouts on that, because we want people to understand how serious the Space Force idea, which they've been throwing around since 1985, folks. Let's just get clear. It's not a new idea. It's an old idea. In fact, this is the thing about the industrial military complex. They come up with an idea, and just because we don't hear about it doesn't mean they're not doing it, because they are definitely doing it, right? So we're going to be showing those 2 clips, giving out some information. Then we'll have Hawaiian music provided by John Labros. And then at 5:10, we'll have Rob Tobias. Then we're going to have our first drawing, and we're going to have some pretty amazing drawings. We have a drawing that's going to be given by a bike shop. We're going to have a free teeth whitening kit from a dentist. We're going to be giving away Chris Hedges' books, signed copies of Chris Hedges' books. We'll be giving away 2 copies of that. We're going to be giving away a $20 gift certificate, and everybody who comes into the fundraiser. Now, on the events page, it says it's $10 to $50. I don't think anybody would turn you down if all you had is $5, to be honest. That's just not how we work there. So I encourage everyone to show up, because every little bit helps. 5:30, we'll have Mood Area 52. From 6 to 6:40, David Barsamian. He's going to talk for 40 minutes. And honestly, he's an awesome speaker. I saw him only once personally when he was at World Pies, and he totally invigorated me because he talked about let's don't atomize, which really I thought was a brilliant metaphor to nuclear. And since that's my gig, I'm like, totally liked it. Then we're going to have a second drawing after Mr. Barsamian stops speaking, and then we're going to have more music. Joan Bro and Ariel Areola and the Raventones and T.R. Kelly and Randy Holmes. Then we're going to have a third and final drawing. So we're going to have 3 drawings 3 opportunities for you to get a little prize from KEPW just for coming and giving us a few beans and sharing your energy with us and being part of our community, our family, and owning this. Being part of, let's take it back. Let's make the people who don't have housing important. Let's make water important. Let's give different frames of thought. We have the nuclear hot seat. We have Global Village. We have, hip-hop shows, Water is Life, Racism, Empire, and Survival by our ever-loving Jack Dresser, who is Eugene's probably most prominent activist, anti-imperialist activist, honestly. I met Jack a long, long time ago. When I first came to Eugene in 2004. I guess that feels like a long, long time to me. Anyways, I am going to stop with this diatribe because I see we're coming up on just about a half an hour. And I really wanted to spend the first half hour or 20 minutes of our show asking you to please be part of our membership drive for the month of October. Join us this Sunday at 4 p.m. at Tsunami Books. That's October 7th at the Tsunami Books at 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Bring your family, bring your friends, come enjoy us. Pay a few beans, come in. We're going to have light refreshments, good music, good people. I think we're going to have a really great turnout. And, in Eugene, people love events. And it's going to be a really beautiful day. And you can get to meet all the principals. You'll meet the DJs and the people that are there. Because we're all going to be there supporting the radio station. We are all committed to making KEPW the best community public radio station in the country. And we like to take the best of each station that we see. And that's our goal, is to make it better and better. And to listen to our listeners. And to have our listeners become part of us. Either through donating your money and or your time. And if you don't have money and you want to be a volunteer, that is awesome too. You don't have to give us money. You don't have to be a member to be part of us. We need plenty of volunteers. There's plenty of holes to fill here because we're building a crew. We're getting bigger. We have great volunteers who are highly competent. It's amazing the wonderful people that are in Eugene that have stepped up to the plate to make this radio station work. So, enough of that. I can see what we're at. We're at 22 minutes. So I will end this, and I thank you for listening. You've been listening to Lonnie Clark, and this show is called the Age of Fission Radio Show because we are now living in the age of fission. I did not wake up to that concept until after Fukushima happened, and I did not come up with that term. My friend H. Thomas Ackerman, he's a Canadian activist. He is an artist. You can find him, H. Thomas Ackerman, ACKERMANN.com. He is a very unique person. He has a YouTube channel by that same name, but he came up with that term. And frankly, he's right. His point is that we've lived in the age of fission ever since they split the atom in the late 30s. I thought it was the age of fission post-Fukushima. And then now I've been doing this almost just about 5 years, to be honest, since 2013. I'm beginning to think that Tom is right, that it is from the 50s because we got blasted in the 50s. There is so much plutonium all over this planet, we don't even know about it. Like, they're not going to tell us. The revolution will not be televised. Let's just be clear. That's just not how it's going to happen. So, and I feel exactly like Mr. Hedges did last night. I'm not speaking out because I think we're going to stop them. I'm speaking out because it's the right thing to do. I'm not going to sit around and ignore the contamination and the pollution. I mean, the nuclear contamination is off the charts. And in fact, that's one of the reasons I can't stand Bill McKibbins from 350.org, because he's out there promoting nuclear. In fact, the NRC is now beginning to mouth the lies of the nuclear industry, saying that a little bit of radiation sort of acclimates your body to nuclear radiation. Well, I'm the first generation of nuclear radioactively bombed people. And I'll tell you what, it has not helped our planet or our people or the species on this planet. We have a massive increase in autism. We have a massive increase in schizophrenia. We have a massive increase in cancer, in autoimmune diseases. All four of those things were identified in scientific studies by Dr. John Goffman and Dr. Arthur Tamplin. He's not as famous, but they worked together at the Lawrence Livermore Lab, and they were directed by the government to please tell us that nuclear waste is good for people, that there's something we can do and it'll be beneficial. And then their second mandate was to come back. If it couldn't find out that it was beneficial to humanity, they were supposed to come back and tell the government that it wasn't that harmful. Well, when they both came back and said unequivocally, this is very harmful, we like nuclear power, we like nuclear weapons, but we don't think you should use it widespread until we know how to manage the waste and then until we understand more about it. Well, when that happened, both of them, boom, ejected from the process and from the program. John Goffman was unemployed for 10 years. He barely got they let these people go to work at universities. It's kind of ironic, so he got a teaching job. Arthur Tamplin was told when he gave speeches, he couldn't talk about the effects that nuclear contamination had on children. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay for his way or his scientific studies if he kept that language in his speeches. He could keep the language in his studies, but he couldn't talk about it. It's the new N-word. So that is why I speak out. For those of you who don't know me, I have a YouTube channel called Nuts for Art, and I strongly suggest you go to my playlist. I used to be way more active, and I'm actually getting more and more active again. It kind of goes in waves. Like I said, I've been doing it 5 years, and to believe you me, I'm just sick of being attacked. When I make videos, I spend 2 or 3 days just like deleting mean comments about me because they pay paid trolls to come and attack people. And that is the reality, because I cannot imagine that people would be attacking people the way they do on YouTube without getting paid. The inhumanity of it. Right now in our country, we have some very serious, highly, highly nuclear contaminated dead zones. What do they call them? Sacrifice zones. Chris Hedges talked about the sacrifice zones last night. And those sacrifice zones, that means areas where there's just such massive contamination that we know those people in those areas are going to die and are going to get sick and are going to have miserable little lives. And or that's the point. They're going to have miserable lives. That's the plan of the oligarchs, right? To make them miserable. Except that's why I say happiness is resistance. And love is greater than fear. Because we do not need to be at the mercy of these oligarchs and the elites. We can choose. The one thing we can choose is our attitude. The one thing they can't take from us is how much we choose to love life and love each other and give each other positive emotions and positive love. That's the one thing they can't take from us. They can take everything else, but they cannot take our attitude. So I refuse to give in. I refuse to be unhappy. I was literally an abused child. I grew up in a very abusive household. And the one thing I learned early on is that the tormentors love to watch you miserable. And if you want to fight the tormentors, you just be happy. And guess what? They eventually stop. Because if they can't get to you, they're going to move on to somebody else. And I frankly feel like this set of oligarchs, they're going to collapse under their own weight. There's just no getting around it. This monster is too heavy to bear. We are in the beginning of the free fall. And this nuclear contamination and the nuclear waste is going to be the biggest story that nobody ever heard. And those of you listening to this station are going to be able to say, you know what? I've been paying attention. I made this a priority for me. I choose to listen to this. I choose to get actively engaged to call my senators. Which, speaking of which, let me give you an action that you can take. A real action that you can take. And I'll find it. The Department of Energy on October 16th is going to have a DOE is going to have a Department of Energy in Portland Let me Google it so I can get the exact name of what it is, because it is really amazing. Up in Hanford, Department of Energy, DOE comments meeting in Portland, October 16.
Hey, mate, you've been listening to KEPW LP 97.3 FM. Also live streaming on www.kepw.org.
2018. Let's see what this says, because I'm pretty sure I can just put that in Mr. Google's and it'll tell us all about it. Tuesday, October 16th. What does that say? City of Portland. Meeting City of Portland. So, Hanford site. Here we go. Department comment, public comments, hearings. This is such an amazing... I just can't get over this, that they're doing this. I think it's on sound. Did they move it? The Richland Library. No. Hanford. October. You know what? I'm going to put the link in the thing, but let me see if I can find it. Let me see. I posted it on my Facebook page. This is the hard part. See, this, again, this is what I mean. You cannot find stuff on how to be active. They post it up and then boom, it disappears, but it's still going to be there. I posted it up on my Facebook page, and I posted it up in No Nukes Northwest on Facebook. So I encourage everybody to go to No Nukes Northwest. Nukes Northwest on Facebook. It's an open, I think they used to make it a closed member, but I think now it's just an open thing. If you go to No Nukes Northwest, it will be, it'll be an open, and people can just do it. So let me see what this says. Brunswick to new members. Maybe here, DOE public hearing. This is what it's called. I found it. DOE public meeting on Hanford radioactive waste. Listen to what it says about this. It's hosted by Hanford Challenge, and let's see what I'm going to see what it says about it. Join the Oregon Department of Energy on Tuesday, October 16th in Portland to discuss the U.S. Department of Energy's proposal, listen to this, to reclassify high-level radioactive waste at the Hanford nuclear site in Washington. They're going to reclassify it to low-level radioactive waste. Attendees will hear from Oregon, Washington, and federal experts about U.S. DOE's proposal and have an opportunity to ask questions to make informal comments. DOE will submit its formal comments to U.S. DOE regarding its proposal prior to the meeting. We will make copies available. Let me tell you where it's at. It is at doors open. It's at the Elliott Center at the First Unitarian Church, 1226 Southwest Salmon Street. And it says use the Salmon Street entrance in Portland, Oregon, 97205. Let me see. The evening's meetings will follow a half-a-day informational meeting hosted by U.S. DOE, also at the Elliott Center. So let me click on that link. I'll open it into a new tab. Background on the proposal. The U.S. DOE has retrieved most of the waste from 16 single-shell waste tanks at Hanford C Tank Farm. The U.S. DOE is proposing to reclassify the remaining tank waste as low-level radioactive waste so that it can remain at Hanford. So it's the dredge. Basically what this is this is all the bottom of the tank. It's all the stuff that's really bad. So the public hearing radioactive waste. So what is it saying? Doors open at 6 p.m. I wonder where the half a day at the evening, half a day informational hosted also at I wonder where the half a day thing is. Were they going to tell us that? So that's bizarre. A half-a-day informational meeting hosted by U.S. DOE, also at the Elliott Center. So I guess what I'm going to do before October 16th is call the Elliott Center and see if we can bust in on that one too. But For those of you that can't get there before 6:30 at night or 6 o'clock, please go. Because when people show up, I mean, what they are going to do is, okay, single shell, 16 single shell tanks, and they've moved the waste out because they were leaking. But at the bottom of the tanks is where they threw in all the gunk, all the tools, all the equipment, everything that's really heavy, and it would really actually, because it's so radioactive, they actually have to invent some machinery to move it. And this is why they're proposing to just reclassify it as low-level waste so they don't have to worry about it. And it's not a little bit, it's quite a bit. I mean, it is quite a bit. I think it's 66,000 gallons or something. 62,900 gallons of waste. Okay, listen to this. This represents a move. Okay, this represents a move to permanently leave an estimated 4% of waste, or 62,900 gallons, in Hanford's C tank farm, with cement grout added to the tanks, which doesn't do jack. After 20 years, it goes right through that cement. DOE estimates that 500,000 curies of radioactivity will be left in the tanks. Now, you probably need to multiply that by like 100 times because they always lie. This process has the potential to set a precedent on how much waste is left behind in all of its 177 tanks. Yet, the U.S. DOE is not planning to hold public hearings on this important proposal. Regional public hearings are necessary to step in to ensure adequate and meaningful public comments are solicited and collected. The technical nature and complexity of this process necessitates clear and comprehensive public discussion and evaluation, which is best accomplished in person at public hearings around the region. So they are specifically, this comes from Hanford Challenge. I specifically request that DOE, they're requesting immediate regional hearings, withdrawal of the proposal, should not fill the tanks with cement or grout until the tank waste is removed and the high-level waste in the soils beneath the tanks is removed. So listen to that statement. They are requesting that they should not fill the tanks with grout or cement until most of the tank waste is removed. And listen to this next part. The high-level waste in the soils beneath the tanks is removed. So they already know that beneath these tanks, there's 177 tanks. They emptied out 16, and they want to leave the rest of it. This is insane that we are ignoring this, people. Stop the piecemeal approach to the tank farm cleanup and consider the cumulative impact of its proposal and actions decisions to include both the high-level waste at the C tank farms and the liquid waste intentionally discharged and leaked to soils. This is what's going on at Hanford. You think Hanford is safe? Hanford is not safe. Hanford is not safe. Hanford is a freaking disaster. And it is outrageous that we are actually refusing to actively engage and just pretend like it's, oh, don't worry, the government's going to take care of it for us. Yeah, they'll take care of it for us. And then when you have these little microencephaly babies up there at the Hanford area, at the Tri-Cities, the government hires these lying doctors that come in and say within 3 months of studying the babies going, oh, no, don't worry, it's not caused by nuclear waste. When we know for a scientific fact, microencephaly is one of the first things that happens when you're exposed to continued levels, not of low-level radioactive waste, high level. But people up in the Tri-Cities are getting fried, folks. It's beyond comprehension. Let's get to our Dr. Helen Caldicott book, because we love Dr. Caldicott, and I know there's a whole group of anti-nukers that are super mad at Dr. Caldicott because they think she hasn't done enough to stop Fukushima, and because she thinks number 4 has something in it or something, I don't know, because she buys the bull. You know, like they're handing us a line out Fukushima, folks. At Fukushima, they have these, I don't know if people out there know this, but Fukushima is still a freaking mess. We have 3 nuclear power plants in the China Syndrome. They're still spewing out high levels of radioactivity. And so they have to constantly, they want to repopulate Fukushima. So they actually hire people to come in and clean up the dirt. So they're accumulating these massive amounts of bags of dirt. And what's the Japanese government's solution? Incineration. So they built another whole industry moving the dirt, and they just burn the dirt. At various cities, they take the dirt. They, like in Tokyo, for example, there's a company, they have a quota, they ship it to Tokyo, they burn, they incinerate the radioactive dirt. What they don't burn in the day of their quota, they dump into the bay. And now we're going to have the 2020 Olympics, the Summer Olympics, where we are going to have surfing for the first time. Talk about normalizing contamination. We are on the precipice of mass omnicide, not just genocide. It's omnicide. Nuclear contamination sterilizes everything. In Chernobyl, the plants don't decompose. They have the forests look great, but they're not dying. They're frozen in time. And you're not going to feel it immediately. You don't actually know you're being contaminated while you're being contaminated. It's like the happy pill. This is why they can be happy. Oh my gosh, I see we're into almost 40 minutes. Let's get into some of her reading tonight. So, thank you guys. I'm going to get into it, and I'm going to stop a few minutes before. So we're not going to have much of a reading tonight because I am going to talk about our membership drive for KEPW. We want you to join us on October 7th down at Tsunami Books in Eugene, Oregon. And we want you to become sustaining members for $5, $10 a month. Or give us a one-time donation, but we'd really love a sustaining membership. So Dr. Helen Caldicott's book, The New Nuclear Danger, we are on page 82. 3 ways to destroy an intercontinental ballistic missile. A ballistic missile is like a bullet shot from a gun. It leaves its launch pad or silo on a premeditated trajectory, cannot be recalled, and will land where it is targeted. Missile defense systems are categorized based on the point in flight in which they intercept enemy missiles. Route-based systems hit enemy missiles immediately after they are launched, and their boost phase the 5 minutes available after launch and before the missile leaves the atmosphere. Mid-course systems hit missiles in space during their transit phase, as the bombs or passengers separate from their missiles and coast through space at tremendous speeds. Terminal systems hit missiles as they re-enter the Earth's atmosphere to land and kill their target. Destruction of a ballistic missile at any stage, boost, transit, or terminal, carries grave medical implications. Boost phase. The boost phase is possibly the best time to destroy the missiles, particularly if the MIRV'd multiple independent re-entry vehicles, for it carries numerous hydrogen bombs that are much harder to target once they are separated. If the missile is loaded with numerous submunitions of chemical and biological weapons, the only efficient time to destroy them is during the boost phase. During the boost phase, the missile itself is large and slow compared to its tiny warheads barreling through space at many times the speed of sound. During its rapid ascent, the missile pours forth great jets of fire, which are readily identifiable by infrared tracking, which are readily identifiable by infrared tracking early warning satellite, thus making them easy targets. There are 3 disadvantages to boost phase destruction. First, the missile must be detected within 2 minutes of launch, leaving no time for human decision or intervention either to detect or attack the missile. This means that World War III could be a computer initiated by error or by design, with software determining our future. Second, it is a medical problem of grave import. If 10 hydrogen bombs on one missile were destroyed in the atmosphere, approximately 100 pounds of carcinogenic plutonium would rain down upon the population, causing long-term havoc and mayhem. Prevailing winds would scatter the deadly, long-lived carcinogenic pollution hundreds of thousands of miles. The contaminated earth would be polluted forever. Likewise, if the missile were carrying biological and chemical weapons, lethal, genetically modified viruses and bacteria, or highly toxic chemicals that would descend upon the underlying population. Yay! The third disadvantage is that the intercepted nuclear weapons could accidentally explode when intercepted. So I guess that's like the little games that Kim Jong-un has been playing, right? That's why everybody lives in fear of this guy. Except not Trump. He's in love. He's in love with Kimmy. Transit phase. As an MIRV'd missile zooms in through space, the launch rocket separates from the front end, or bus, which contains its passengers, the 10 hydrogen bombs. This transit phase lasts about 25 minutes. It is very difficult to detect hydrogen bombs hurtling through the space at very cold temperatures. But because the metal bombs originate in the Earth's atmosphere, they retain their warmth relative to the sub-freezing temperatures of space. Heat-sensing mechanisms on an anti-ballistic missile or kill vehicle are designed to detect the temperature differential and allow the missiles to seek out its target. However, it has long been recognized that it is relatively easy to fool an anti-ballistic missile system. Numerous decoys could accompany the bombs, such as mylar balloons inflated to bomb size and coated with an appropriate radar-detecting material to simulate the bomb, or pieces of aluminum to confuse the radar systems of the kill vehicle. Balloons can be made of the same shape as the warhead, and if they contain a light bulb and a battery, they maintain the same temperature as the warhead, thus confusing the interceptor sensors. Or the real bomb can be surrounded by a cooled balloon to make it resemble a decoy. The truth is that the Pentagon has never tested an intercepted system against a large array of decoys. Burton Richter, winner of the 1976 Nobel Prize in Physics, compares the task to hitting a gnat with a gun that fires pins, with only one pin in each gun. Not surprisingly, most of the tests performed thus far by the Pentagon using a hit-to-kill missile have failed. Richter and other eminent scientists suggest that the only way to effectively halt or intercept missiles or bombs in space is to deploy nuclear weapons in space. Decoys would then be irrelevant because the nuclear explosion would destroy bombs and decoys over a wide area. But even an effective space-based missile defense would create what are known as exotic effects, including electromagnetic pulses. In 1962, for example, the United States exploded a hydrogen bomb 248 miles high in space. In an unexpected turn of events, it was thus discovered that destructive electromagnetic radiation emitted from a nuclear blast in space travels vast distances. It has since been calculated that a single bomb exploded 200 miles above the continental U.S. would paralyze North America, destroying most electronic systems, including long runs of cable, piping, and conduit, large antennae and their feed cables, guy wires and their support lines, overland power and telephone lines, long runs of electrical wiring, railroad tracks, aluminum aircraft bodies, computers, power supplies, alarm systems, intercoms, life support control systems, transitized receivers and transmitters, base radio stations, satellites, and some telephone equipment. Wow! Fewer than 500 explosions could blanket the U.S. with as much as 100,000 volts per square meter. Ted Taylor, one of the inventors of the miniaturized hydrogen bomb, estimates that there are approximately 50 exotic effects from a nuclear explosion, many types of EMP, gamma radiation, X-rays, and electron effects from bomb debris. Holy Lord, the inventor said this. This isn't it people making stuff up. Lord, folks. Terminal phase. As the hydrogen bombs re-enter the Earth's atmosphere at 20 times the speed of sound, it is very difficult to destroy them. Even if some of them could be successfully hit, they would spread plutonium across the targeted country. Despite all these drawbacks, missile defense systems seem destined for manufacture unless the American people, realizing that their lives are in great jeopardy, rise up to save themselves, their children, and all future generations. While I have tried to give a great overview of missile defense systems as recently as August 2001, the Pentagon changed the terminology again, which will keep the public, conveniently for the Pentagon, confused. TMD and MMD are now intertwined, and the differences between them unclear. This terminology shell game means that those who previously supported TMD only, including many Democratic politicians, may be forced to support the whole system unless they have the courage to challenge the Pentagon. That's hilarious. She thinks the Democrats have the courage to challenge the Pentagon. I don't know how that even got put into print. That is outrageous. Let me see how much time we have. We have about 10 more minutes. So let's get back to this. We have a new subtitle: Weapon Systems Involved in Missile Defense. I invite you to absorb the following with a skeptical eye, being ever aware of the innate dangers technology brings to the world. You need to understand how the U.S. government is spending your tax dollars and how this spending spree is contributing to the destabilization of an armed world seething with ancient animosities between nations. Bear in mind that determining numbers of weapon systems needed, the Pentagon's overall strategy has been to prepare the equipment to fight two conventional wars simultaneously. Although before September 11th, Defense Secretary Rumsfeld had planned to downscale to a single major war. In each case, I have described the particular weapon system, given the cost to the taxpayer, indicated who will benefit from the contract to build it, and evaluated the weapon's usefulness, track record and feasibility, etc., drawing on reports from the General Accounting Office and others who have analyzed each system in detail. I have also tried to indicate which systems are in violation of existing treaties. But because the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty, ABM, is not absolutely specific and does not cover theater defense missiles, theater missile defense, it is unclear whether some of these systems under development constitute violations or not. Some Americans would contend that theater defense does not violate the ABM. For example, Russia is not so sure. Several of the systems with bilateral functions definitely do violate the ABM treaty, as they cross the line between the theater defense arena and the NMD. It is deeply worrying that the U.S. military-industrial complex is already constructing many of these systems regardless of treaty violations. Well, it is a known fact, as Chris Hedges said last night, our military is 100% in control of everything in our government, as we have seen in this latest charade of seating the fascist on the Supreme Court. Let's get back to her book. Many Americans are under the impression that weapons development under the rubric of missile defense do not count as new weapons or are permitted by current arms control treaties. This was the case with a man from the National Guard in Alaska who told me that he is involved in installing the foundations of the first 100 missiles near Fairbanks, the initial part of the extra-atmospheric missile defense system initiated by Clinton. The man was very surprised by anti-Star Wars speech I gave, saying that he had been under the impression that the NMD was specifically for defense. The fact is that missiles used in missile defense violate all arms control treaties and will likely initiate a massive new nuclear arms race involving China, Russia, India, Pakistan, and others, despite the expression of purpose of the ABM and other international agreements. New subtitle: Lower Tier Defense, Endo-Atmospheric. The Army and the Navy are in charge of these particular systems, designed to intercept missiles or bombs at low levels in the atmosphere. Components of the systems include the anti-missile missiles themselves and detection and tracking systems to locate and target enemy missiles for destruction. Patriot Pack Army System, new subtitle. This is a hit-to-kill warhead on the missile guided by the aerodynamic fins. The current version is an upgraded model of the Patriot Pack, a defense used against the Iraqi Scud missiles during the Gulf War. The Pentagon, despite the dazzling TV propaganda at the time, has been forced to admit that not one of the Patriot missiles intercepted a single Scud, a fact that does not bode well for the future development and upgrading of the Patriot. Although the missiles certainly seem to be hitting the Scuds, these images that played and replayed clearly did not represent what was actually happening in real time during the Gulf conflict. The new upgraded version of the Patriot missile, the PAC-3, will be 17 feet long and weigh 640 pounds with a 22-mile or 33-kilometer range. The warheads will be equipped with sensors to locate and hone in on the target, with small rocket thrusters to maneuver the bomb into a collision course. Destruction of the enemy missile will be accomplished by energy of impact. 16 of these interceptor missiles are to be loaded on a Patriot launcher. Let me see how much time. I think we're out of time, folks. So thank you for joining the Age of Fission radio show. I really want to thank you. We'll be back next week. We are ending, we're ending on page 87. And we are in the 6th chapter, so we're making it. And it really matters that it matters to you that you listen to this show and that you're listening to this information. I do my best to read the book as well as I can, and hopefully it's a bit interesting. I know this is dry topic, but I don't know about you, but I'm shocked at the blatant disregard for human life when they're developing these missile systems. But I guess when you're developing war machines, you have a blatant disregard for human life, because that's the purpose, is to kill as many humans as possible, right? So it's up to us. And this is why KEPW matters. So you've been listening to Lonnie Clark with KEPW.org on the Age of Fission radio show. My show does play up on Spreaker, Spreaker, Spreaker. And that is a podcast hosting site. And you can find Lonnie Clark, LONNIE, I have 2 shows posted on my station right now. I plan on putting up other shows when I get a bit more time. I have the Age of Fission and I have Nuclear Hot Seat, because I endorse Libby Halevi's show 100%, and the information she brings is valuable every single week. So she's given me permission to post it up on my own Spreaker site, and I actually hooked her up here with KEPW. So I hope to see all of you out on Sunday at 4 p.m. at Tsunami Books at our fundraiser, at our membership drive. And you know what I say? Put your courage feet on, because guess what? We are the revolution. So thanks for joining us. And remember, happiness is resistance and love is greater than fear. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
The Age of Fission radio show brings you book readings, pertinent articles, interviews with both activists and victims of nuclear and environmental contamination. We strive to deliver only the facts from reliable sources. We want to remind you that love is greater than fear, and happiness is resistance. Our dedication to love and happiness paves the road for innovation and healing. As we face our harsh reality, let us hold each other up and rejoice in our humanity. If you want to comment, please send your thoughts to ageoffission@gmail.com. That's AGEOFFISSION@gmail.com to your host, Lonnie Clark.
You're listening to KEPW LP 97.3 FM, serving Eugene and Springfield. Also live streaming at www.kepw.org.